everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, chocolate, and some of the issues relating to it with regards to veganism and ethical consumption. Chocolate production and politics are incredibly complex, and there's no way I could cover all of it in one video. However, I will do what I can to give a good overview so we can all be a little bit more informed as consumers. And after that, I'm going to reward myself with a little bit of a chocolate tasting treat. Let's start with the basics. Is chocolate vegan? Well, it can be. Chocolate itself is made from the fruit of the cacao tree, which is grown and then fermented. After it's fermented, it's typically roasted and ground into a paste. At that point, things are added like sugar and milk and then sometimes other flavorings. Now, milk, as I just mentioned, is what typically makes chocolate not vegan. Most often, this is in the form of milk, milk powder, or whey. And it's not just milk chocolate that has milk in it. Check your labels, because a lot of the time, dark chocolate has milk in it as well. And while milk is sort of the big factor making chocolate not vegan, there are other things to look out for as well. In the United States, our sugar is often processed with bone char. Occasionally, you may find a bar that's also been sweetened with honey. Any additional flavor elements also need to be looked at. Typically things like caramel or nougat won't be vegan. One ingredient that is not a problem is cocoa butter, which, while it does have butter in the name, it's actually just the fat from the cacao seed. Now, there are a lot of environmental considerations to think about when it comes to chocolate production. Cacao can only be grown in very specific growing requirements, namely by the equator, where it is very warm and very humid. These areas are naturally very rich in biodiversity, with tropical rainforests that are home to 50% of the world's plant and animal species, and trees that are able to sequester huge amounts of carbon. In an effort to maximize cocoa production, cacao, as well as most other crops, are typically grown in a monoculture, meaning that all the other diversity in plants and animals are removed from the area to only grow the target crop. Monocultures are more susceptible to pests, so then further pesticides and insecticides need to be used. These chemicals can contaminate the water, soil, and air, which will then go on to harm wildlife in the surrounding areas. Monocrops also cause very quick degradation of soil quality. Deforestation is a very big issue when it comes to cacao growing. West Africa, namely Ghana and the Ivory Coast, which combined produce about 60% of our chocolate, has seen a 25% decrease in their natural rainforests since 2001. And while chocolate is not the only contributor, it is a large one. In fact, a massive 40% of cacao plantations in Côte d'Ivoire are set up illegally in protected wildlands. And a 2015 study showed a positive correlation between the presence of cacao plantations and a lack of native monkey species in these parks. Since many of these non-human primate species have very small geographical ranges, a lack of habitat spells out extinction. And West African monkeys are not the only ones under threat due to chocolate production. Some chocolate bars, namely cheaper ones like Hershey's, Mars, and Nestle, use palm oil as a cheaper alternative to some of the cocoa butter in their bars. Palm oil is causing rapid deforestation on the islands of Borneo and Sumatra, which are the only homes of some of our closest living relatives, the orangutans. And while palm oil can be grown sustainably, the cheaper stuff is made using slash and burn techniques that give zero regard to the need for Southeast Asian rainforest diversity. Fortunately, monoculture is not the only way to grow palm oil, and it is not the only way to grow cacao. Agroforestry is a farming practice that is based on techniques used in the Americas since long before Europeans showed up. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Practicing agriculture in the forest landscape. It promotes diversity, soil health, is better for wildlife, doesn't have the same pesticide requirements, and reduces contributions to climate change. Essentially, while monoculture is able to provide a short-term boost to cocoa production, agroforestry takes a long-term perspective on cocoa production and ecosystem health. A bird-friendly certification on your chocolate is a good indicator that it was grown using agroforestry methods. If you're wondering why agroforestry is not more common, essentially it comes down to dollars and euros. In the short term, you can make a lot more money burning down rainforests and planting your cacao plantation. And in areas where most people are living under the poverty line, making money is essential so you're able to feed your family. Chocolate growth and production exists in an imbalance, where the largest growers of cacao are in Africa, where there are some of the highest rates of poverty. But the countries that consume the most chocolate are in much wealthier areas of Europe and North America. It's also important to note that chocolate consumption is a luxury, but basic needs like food, shelter, and clothing are not. In the 1950s, the value of the cocoa beans that went into a bar of chocolate were about 50%. Nowadays, it's roughly 6% that goes to farmers, with about 80% going to manufacturers and resellers. That means if you paid $1.50 for a cheap bar of chocolate, only about 9 cents of that went to the farmer that actually grew your chocolate. So if agroforestry and sustainable farming is important to you, and it should be, as healthy rainforests are vital in sequestering carbon and preserving diversity, the onus is with manufacturers and consumers to be willing to pay more money for less chocolate. And we've barely even brushed on human exploitation. Cacao is native to Central and South America, where it was domesticated and consumed by locals for thousands of years, including the Olmec, Maya, and Aztec. When Cortez toppled the Aztec Empire, he maintained control and profited off of the cacao production. Next, the Portuguese started developing cacao plantations in Brazil, where they used African slavery. Cacao then made its way all the way to West Africa, where European colonies used forced African labor to grow cocoa. Now, although the owners of those cacao plantations are no longer white Europeans, most of the owners of manufacturing facilities are. And what they are willing to pay, be it fair trade or commodity price, does not reflect the true cost of growing cacao. Because manufacturers are willing to pay so little for chocolate, growers have to seek out the cheapest sources of labor. Sometimes it can be kind of hard to determine what crosses over the line in terms of human exploitation. Other times it's really not hard. One thing we should all agree is human exploitation is child slavery, which is a huge issue in chocolate growing and production. Forced child labor on cocoa plantations has been documented primarily in West Africa, but also in Brazil. Children who should still be in school will stop early to help work and support their families. Or sometimes they're tricked or coerced into working on cocoa plantations. Sometimes they're sold by desperate families who cannot afford to feed them. And on other occasions, they're simply kidnapped and trafficked. Children as young as 5 will be forced to work up to 14 hours a day, operate chainsaws, exposed to pesticides, and beaten for not moving quickly enough. They will be given inadequate nutrition and shelter. Some are paid very little, some not at all. Hershey, Mars, and Nestle, as well as many smaller chocolate producers, purchase this chocolate. With the complex environmental and social issues that go into chocolate production, it might start to feel that the best thing we can do is to just abstain from chocolate entirely. But chocolate provides a vital source of income for people living in Africa, South America, and parts of Asia. If we all just stopped purchasing chocolate, the poverty levels in these areas would only increase. Ultimately, ethically produced chocolate will be more expensive, but it's important as a consumer that your money goes to the people who grew and produced your chocolate, not to further line the pockets of large corporations. Look for companies that are transparent as to where their chocolate was grown, the methods that were used, and how much they paid for their cocoa. Better yet, look for a chocolate bar that was produced in the same area that it was grown. Now, finding chocolate that was produced and grown in the same area and is also vegan can be a little bit of a challenge, but I've done some research and I'm going to share a few links in the description box below, as well as some chocolate that was not produced in the area it was grown, but it was grown more sustainably. I did want to end this video on a lighter note, so I'm going to be trying some chocolate that I splurged on for Black Friday. This is Raaka chocolate, and I've never tried it before. This video is, of course, not sponsored by them or gifted or anything like that. But I got chocolate, and I'm gonna give you my honest feedback. Now, I think as to be expected, this is a little bit on the pricier end. I got a bit of a discount with it, but I think their average bar costs $7 to $8. They use a method they call transparent trade, where basically every bar is single origin cocoa, and they show where they got it and how much they paid for it, as well as the fair trade and commodity prices. They also exclusively produce vegan chocolate which basically just meant that I was like a kid in a candy store. Literally, except for I'm in my 30s. While they are definitely committed to paying farmers a better rate, I did find it a little bit harder to learn about some of the environmental factors with regards to their chocolate. The only thing I was really able to determine is that the chocolate they get from the Dominican Republic is bird friendly. I was not able to discover that much about their chocolate grown in Uganda and Tanzania. I did send them an email and I haven't heard back yet, but if I learn more, I will share that in either the description of the video or the comments. Now, in terms of taste, something else Raaka does, or I guess doesn't do, is roast their cocoa beans. They say this gives their chocolate a more complex and fruitier flavor profile, so I guess we'll see. I ended up getting 7 bars of different flavors of dark chocolate and then 2 bars of white chocolate. Somehow I missed the milk chocolate part, but it's fine. Let's taste chocolate. I'm gonna start off with a limited batch ginger snap. When you open up the label, this is their transparent trade information. It shows this is the price that Raaka pays. Notably, I think it is stable when you compare it to the commodity and fair trade prices that are both lower and not as stable. This particular chocolate is from Tanzania, and it has a lovely little crystallizing brown sugar moment. That is actually like incredibly fruity. Wow, paired with the ginger, it tastes very seasonal. So what they added to this one were spices, brown sugar, and ginger. And you get all those things too, but it's also so fruity. I like that. Next bar, maple and nibs. This one is from Uganda, and it is cane sugar free because it is sweetened with maple. And look at that, it is just chock full of cocoa nibs. That one is fruity, but it is, I think, a little bit less fruity. The cocoa nibs add great texture. And the maple, I was gonna say that the maple wasn't there, but it kind of hits you on the end. Green tea crunch. Now this is from the Dominican Republic, so this is one of their bird-friendly options. It's made with puffed quinoa as the crunch factor, and it's not like a in-your-face crunch, it's like a little surprisey crunch. Time for a white chocolate. Here we have cookies and cream. Cheers. I don't know if I'm really as much of like a white chocolate person. It's very sweet, but it's also very much like the filling in an Oreo, like in a good way. I enjoy it. I got these 2 bars because they were weird and I love something weird. Beet salad swirl, mango spinach turmeric. I mean, what are they? What am I expecting? I do not know. Let's do mango spinach turmeric first. I feel like turmeric is a little bit almost floral, and spinach has that bit of an ironiness to it. It looks like chocolate. It almost tastes like a smoothie, but in a chocolate bar. That is unexpected. I like that. Beet salad swirl. Okay, so this is gonna have beets, spinach, and black pepper in white chocolate, and then they're gonna swirl it with a mustard seed infused dark chocolate. And you can see the beautiful swirling. I feel like beets are a really natural flavor pairing for chocolate. Something about this I'm not that into though. I'm not really sure. Something about this is not working for me. Taste is subjective though, so pure cacao, strawberry, and coconut, and this one is no sugar added, so this might be quite intense. I know some people that would really love this bar. You get a lot of strawberry flavor, you get a lot of that dark, bitter chocolate flavor, and you get coconut, maybe. No, I don't really get coconut. I get strawberry and I get chocolate. I do like it. It wouldn't be my go-to bar, but it's an experience. Let's do some more strawberry. I think this is gonna be a very different strawberry chocolate bar from the last one because it is strawberries and cream, white chocolate. White chocolates have a much softer snap than the dark ones. That's really good, actually. It's sweet, but unlike the other white chocolate I got, I think this one's like a little bit of a less overpowering sweet flavor. You definitely get like a lot of cream. It's a coconutty cream, and it works really well with the strawberry. Last bar. This is a Good Foods Award winner, whatever that is. It's also the darkest chocolate bar I got, and I think this also will be intense. This is our bourbon cask aged dark chocolate, 82% cocoa. You do get some of those, you do get some of those bourbony notes, and they really play with the fruitiness of the chocolate and the maple. This bar is sweetened both with cane sugar and maple, but you get that interplay between the bourbon and the maple, and then the fruity notes of the chocolate. All right, I'm gonna pick a favorite, I think. I picked two favorites. Firstly, the mango spinach turmeric. That was just such a unique experience and a really pleasurable one. Secondly, the ginger snap. There's just like a lot of flavor in there, and it's such a Christmassy, wintry bar. It was really enjoyable. And that is it. I feel like that was a bit of a roller coaster. I started off talking about a bunch of things that I found really depressing, and then I ate a lot of chocolate. I almost feel like maybe these two things didn't really belong in the same video together, but my hope was that the chocolate would be kind of like a pick-me-up. Please let me know your favorite ethically produced, sustainably made chocolates and brands of chocolate in the comments below. I'm so eager to learn about more of them. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you made it this far, you should really subscribe. We'd love to see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.